Welcome to the Exam Room Live, brought to you by the Physicians Committee. Hi, I am the weight loss champion, Chuck Carroll, and this is the healthiest half hour anywhere online today. Appreciate you joining us right here on Facebook and on YouTube for our final show of 2020. And we are ending the year with a bang, and we are going to be giving you a gift. What gift is that? Well, that would be the gift of nutrition knowledge and good health, my friend. And helping us to unwrap that present of health today is Dr. Neal Barnard. He is here to answer your health and nutrition questions. So anything that is on your mind for the next half hour, let's go ahead and get you an answer. Post it in the comments or the chat box. You can also tweet it to us using the hashtag ExamRoomLive. Just send that on over to @PCRM or @ChuckCarrollWLC. And Dr. Barnard, I got to tell you, we already have a ton of good questions in here. We're going to pick your brain about fermented foods and probiotics and blood sugar and weight loss and soy curls. That's a new one to me. So many great ones already in the mailbag. So make sure that you get your question in, and we will do our best to get you an answer. Dr. Barnard, I'm going to bring you right back on camera here because I'm ready to rock and roll. Are you ready to start taking some questions?
You bet, Chuck. Let's do it.
All right. The first question comes to us from John today, and he wants to know, what is your opinion on probiotics, either supplements or as part of fermented veggies such as sauerkraut or kimchi?
Don't waste your time. I'm going to say, I know this is exactly the opposite of what everybody else will say. They'll say you should go to the store and get probiotics, which really mean bacteria that you can use to nurture your gut bacteria. And sometimes they sell them as capsules, as powders, and they'll shove them into yogurt products and so forth. But the reason I'm going to say don't waste your time is that your body is already colonized with bacteria of all different kinds. And what really matters is the other foods that you're eating. So are they the ones that nurture the survival of the healthy bacteria, or do they nurture the survival of unhealthy bacteria? And if you are eating healthy plant-based foods, whole grains, beans, vegetables, and fruits, they nurture the survival of the good bacteria. So researchers recently did a study where they looked at people who had taken antibiotics, which kind of clean out your gut. And so you want to replenish your healthy bacteria, right? So you go to the store and you get probiotics. Turns out that the people who did that did not replenish their gut bacteria as well as people who just let nature take its course. So I have stopped recommending probiotics for anything. And even after the use of antibiotics, I just suggest that you eat a healthy diet and the probiotics will come in on their own from nature.
Outstanding. Vegan Todd is checking in. He says that it is his birthday. So happy birthday, Vegan Todd. I know you watch every day. Thanks for being one of the exam roomies. Happy birthday, my friend.
Happy birthday.
Next question, Dr. Barnard, comes to us from Gigi. Gigi writes, in less than a month, my morning blood sugar has gone from 16.9 to 5.5, but my weight has not changed much. How could that be?
Well, first of all, congratulations. You've had a huge improvement in your blood sugar control. That's fantastic. That's great. And by the way, for people who are confused about these numbers, I'm wondering if maybe you might be coming from Canada, where they use different numbers compared to the United States. The person in the United States would be glad to be under 100. But so how can your blood sugar control improve, but your weight hasn't improved yet? Well, if you're on a healthy plant-based diet, you're going to get the best of both worlds. It will improve both your blood sugar and your weight and your cholesterol and your blood pressure, very likely. But if the weight change is lagging behind, look at the fat content of your diet. And that means oils used in cooking. It means nuts or nut products like peanut butter. And it can mean avocados as in guacamole fest. Fats have 9 calories per gram. And so even though they won't spike your blood sugar, they don't have any sugar in them, they won't spike your blood sugar, and your blood sugar control can continue to improve. But what you'll discover is that your weight doesn't drop so much. So if that's you, you might try for the next month or so, just leaving all the fatty foods aside and see if your weight doesn't improve. In the bargain, because getting fats out of your diet also helps get the fat out of your cells, your blood sugar is likely to come down even more, because your blood sugar, the sugar molecules in the blood can now get into the cells once the fat is gone. So vegan, yes, really reducing the fatty foods will make it even more powerful.
Next question comes to us from David, wondering about iron. He writes, could it be that high iron is a symptom of heart disease and not the cause?
It really is a cause. We've known about this really for a really long time, for many decades. Researchers have known that high iron levels can damage the heart. There's a condition called hemochromatosis, in which people have the inability to normally regulate their iron levels, and it's damaging to the heart. So that's been really clear. It's a genetic condition for many people. However, we're taking this in a couple of other directions. The first thing is that we know that it doesn't just affect the heart, it can also affect the brain. So high iron levels are now thought to be a contributor to Alzheimer's disease, we believe. So be really careful about that. The other thing about this is that back in the 1950s, the whole idea was the more iron, the better. You can't go wrong. Eat a lot of steak, eat liver. It's got a lot of iron. Take iron supplements, take Geritol. The scientific community has hit the brakes hard on that. And we now know that while you need to have adequate iron, having more than adequate iron is a mistake. And when you go to your doctor, and your doctor checks your iron level, and we'll check other things too. Your hemoglobin and hematocrit are indices of do you have an adequate blood cell volume, and then your iron level can be checked. Ferritin is stored iron. All those things can be easily checked. Where we've wanted to see people now is within the normal range on these numbers, but sort of to the bottom end of normal. In other words, you don't have any symptoms, you're fine, you got loads of energy, you're in the normal range, but you have not accumulated lots of excess stored iron, because if you have, that's driving the heart disease and driving the Alzheimer's, according to the best evidence we've got.
Next question comes to us from Elena. She says, I've heard you talking about seitan and tofu as plant-based protein sources. Obviously, legumes in there too, just as any plants. But what about soy curls specifically? She says that her family absolutely loves them.
Yeah. First of all, they're fine. They're great. And second of all, they are dramatically better than what they replace. And what they replace for a lot of people is like those little chunks of pork or chicken or something that they would have put in their rice dish. Soy curls are far healthier.
All right. Teresa is wondering, on a plant-based diet, can you still lose hair?
Does not happen very much. Well, first of all, let me just say, back in the 1980s or so, in the 80s, 1990s, something quite the reverse was happening in Japan. We've talked about this a few times, when Japan started westernizing. And its traditional plant-friendly diet, plant-emphasizing diet of rice and vegetables, relatively little meat. When that diet gave way to a more westernized diet, which was burgers and chicken and cheese started coming in, which is not a Japanese tradition, not only was there more breast cancer, more hot flashes, more diabetes, more heart disease, more weight problems, but you started to see more reports of hair loss. And what researchers started to believe is that a meaty diet would tend to increase the effect of testosterone on the hair follicle, causing men to lose their hair more than before. And I am inclined to think that's probably true, that hair loss is a genetic thing in one sense. Both men and women have genes that can cause them to lose hair. It runs in families. But what causes the expression is testosterone activity. So the whole reason women don't lose their hair and men do overall is because men have more testosterone. And were a man to have a traumatic loss of his testes, in adolescence, he would never go bald. Don't try this at home. But anyway, the point being that when testosterone activity is ramped up inappropriately with a Western diet, you see more hair loss. Okay, so what about on a vegan diet? About once every 3 years, I hear of somebody who felt that their hair was kind of thinning because they made a diet change. And it sort of reminds me of if you ever knew somebody who, when they gave birth, noticed that they started losing hair a lot. And people say, well, now you're building your nest. They make kind of inappropriate comments about it. But with any big hormonal shift, there sometimes is a very temporary hair loss. But we really don't see it with vegan diets very much. If you are having hair loss on a vegan diet or any other diet, you might want to check with your dermatologist and see what's going on. Maybe the last thing I'll just mention really quickly. If your hair just seems really unhealthy and it's undergoing changes, you might, when the next time you see your primary care doc, get tested for your thyroid level, because when your thyroid is misbehaving, your hair can change and your skin can change. And so for lots of folks, the reasons are they're not getting adequate iodine anymore because they've stopped using iodized salt. And this is true for meat eaters as well as vegans, everybody. It's really easy to run low on iodine. Lots of people add that to your diet. That should help. If you did have some temporary hair loss during a diet transition, time is going to bring it back. I have heard a few people say that when this has happened, and I've only heard about this maybe 5 times in the past 30 years, some people add plant protein, tofu, tempeh, those things, and found that was helpful for them too. So give it a try, see what happens.
That is in-depth, thorough advice. I honestly was not expecting that. That is phenomenal. Thank you.
Sure.
All right. Next question comes to us from Amanda. She actually could use some help here. She writes that I've been plant-based 25 years and all of a sudden I've fallen off the wagon and now I crave fast food and meat constantly. I don't know what triggered it or how to reverse it except to practice willpower. Do you have any advice to help?
Well, willpower is a good thing, and it's in short supply these days. But if you have it, use it. That's great. What could be happening is that right now, it's, as we're recording this is the middle of December, and the days are about as short as they are going to get. And in a few days, they're going to start getting gradually longer. When the days are getting shorter, meaning you have more darkness, and it's getting colder, your inner squirrel is looking for nuts. You know what I mean? Your bodies are programmed to actually eat more food during this time so that we're storing it for the winter. You tell your body you don't need to store anything on your stomach or on your thighs because you've got it stored on your shelves. You got it stored in the fridge, but your body was programmed a really long time ago. So some of that is absolutely normal. And what you'll very likely discover is that after the middle of December, or the beginning of January, February, that drive to eat sort of goes away. What's the thing to do? Don't be hungry, eat healthful foods, and sort of fill up on the low-calorie food. So you got my apple here. That beats the heck out of a candy bar or a chicken wing or something like that. It's mostly water and got a lot of fiber. And when you nosh on those things, the weight gain is not likely to happen.
Oh, I'm a big fan of apples, especially the Honeycrisp. Yeah, here's one from Kathy. She needs some help here for her husband. She says that my husband's doctor told him 2 years ago to eat keto to stave off of diabetes. She goes through some of the numbers there, but she wants to know, what can I tell him to convince him that his diet is now actually killing him?
Oh my goodness sakes. It's, where do we start? There has been quite a lot of evidence on what these diets do. Now, it's true that if a person has high blood sugar and they begin a diet that has no sugar in it or has no carbohydrate in it, their blood sugar is likely to fall. You're basically starving your body for sugar. And the thing about it is that sugar, or glucose, is your cell's favorite fuel. Your muscles run on glucose. Your brain runs on glucose. And so that's why we eat natural sugars and apples and other fruit and carbohydrates, whether they're in potatoes or pasta or whatever. They liberate sugar. and it nourishes our cells and everything's fine. So the keto theory is, well, I'm going to starve the body for its natural carbohydrate, and so it's got to burn fat, and that's true. And it will burn fat on your body, but it will also burn fat that you're eating. It'll burn the gravy and so forth that you're eating to a degree. So what happens? For many people, nothing happens. They don't lose weight at all because while their body is eating fat, is burning fat, since they are not eating any carbohydrate, they're eating plenty of fat and replacing what was on their body, so they're not losing weight at all. But what is really troubling especially is over the long run, although weight loss normally causes cholesterol levels to fall, about 1 point off your cholesterol per pound lost, the exception of that is with keto. There are a fair number of keto dieters who defy that healthy rule, and instead of losing cholesterol, their cholesterol levels are going up. On average, bad cholesterol, LDL, will go up about 10 points on one of these keto diets, and it stays up in the studies we've seen as long as you watch. And that's going to raise your risk of heart disease. Now, the keto enthusiasts will say, well, don't worry about bad cholesterol, focus instead on triglycerides and so forth. They're making a huge mistake. LDL cholesterol is as atherogenic as we ever thought it was, despite the keto people trying to make it go away. The other thing is that you're eating all the foods that we now know to be linked to long-term cancer risk. Now, I'm talking about colorectal cancer, breast cancer, and others, and these things are by and large not even looked at in short-term ketogenic research studies. So my suggestion is that you avoid a ketogenic diet. The problem is, if you have a loved one or a friend who is doing it, it becomes like a religion to them in some cases where they don't want to hear about it. They just are such believers. And what it is they have fallen in love with what the scale is telling them, that you've managed to lose some weight, and then you kind of disregard the health of the heart or the digestive tract or all these other things. And the biggest tragedy of it is when you look at these people over the long run, the mortality during the follow-up period of research studies in low-carb dieters about 30% higher than other people. So this is among the many reasons why we promote a healthy plant-based diet. It does promote weight loss and lower cholesterol and lower risk of cancer. You get the package all in one.
Quite a few benefits, no doubt. Let's switch gears here. Richard has an interesting question, one that I believe you've actually done a study on. Richard wants to know, what are the best foods to help reverse diabetic neuropathy?
Oh, my goodness sakes. Well, first of all, if you're dealing with that, I'm sorry to hear that you're dealing with it, but there is more than enough reason for hope, and I'm going to share this with you. For people who don't know what we're talking about, when you've had diabetes for a while, it starts attacking you. You know about this. It attacks your eyes. It attacks your kidneys. It can attack your nerves, and that's neuropathy. And if you're lucky, you just have some mild numbness in your toes. But if you're not so lucky, what you have is inappropriately triggered pain, stabbing, or pins and needles, or chronic aching, or you lie down and the bed sheets touch your feet, and it just sends off these pain symptoms that can just be so discouraging. So what's happening is that the diabetes process is attacking your nerves. We did a research study on this very topic quite a number of years ago. We brought in about 36 people. They all had diabetes for a long time. They all had neuropathy. And we did 3 things. Vegan diet. Animal products are gone. Keep oils really low. So we're learning non-oil cooking techniques. And third, choose the healthiest carbohydrate, the low glycemic index carbohydrates, the ones that don't spike your blood sugar. And what we found was 2 things. First of all, people felt better. We use a quantitative scale. Are you mildly improved, moderately improved, dramatically improved, that kind of thing. And yes, people do feel better, but we also then measured their nerve function, which you can do by measuring what's called galvanic skin response in the hands and in the feet. And it improves, which is fabulous, because we had a control group of people who did not get the intervention, and they do what happens when people have diabetes. They continue to get worse. So try those 3 steps. No animal products, keep oils really low, choose the healthy carbohydrates. You'll see more information about this in my book on reversing diabetes, and also in my new book called Your Body in Balance. And give it a shot and see if you don't get better.
Real quick, I want to say hi to Lisa, who is watching us right now in London, and also to Bernie, who's watching us in Scotland. Thank you guys so very much for tuning in today. Appreciate you watching the exam room live and raising your nutrition IQs with us. Dr. Barnard, next question comes to us from Jackie. She wants to know, how does a plant-based diet help with menopause?
Oh, well, what a great question. It's actually something that we're doing quite a lot of work on right now. One of the things that's most troubling when women reach 50, 51, 52, is they start to develop hot flashes. And what hot flashes are, it's the blood vessels in the skin open up, and you feel hot, and you'll feel really hot, and you'll start perspiring, and it seems to come just when you're on a Zoom call or you're in a meeting or something like that, and you're dripping with sweat and you're fanning. It goes away pretty soon, but then you'll have chills afterwards, and it can come at night. And you'll wake up, and you can wake up 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, 6 times, and then that means you feel crummy the next day. So it's no joke. Really, 2 things can be done here. The first is researchers at McGill University noticed years ago that countries where plant-based diets, or mostly plant-based diets, were the tradition, there was dramatically less hot flashes. Japan, parts of China, rural Mexico, where it was black beans and tortillas and that kind of thing. And they also noticed that when these countries would westernize, hot flashes would come in. So what we think is happening is that the plant-based diet is regulating hormonal activity in a healthful way. So number one, if you're not already on a low-fat vegan diet, go there for sure. The second thing is soy products, soybeans, and even soy extracts of various kinds seem to have an anti-hot flash effect. So you could do that. How much? What I would do is I would get yourself a pressure cooker and cook up a big vat of soybeans and apportion it out, half a cup a day. If you want to, for fun, you could then, once it's cooked, spread the soybeans on a cooking sheet and bake them for about an hour at 350. And you've now got roasted soybeans. Have a half a cup a day, and the isoflavones in them are not only a cancer preventer, they reduce the risk of breast cancer. So high soy intake reduces breast cancer risk about 30%. But it also, for many women, reduces hot flashes. So do the combination, vegan diet, add the soy, and you've got the best of all worlds. There are all kinds of other things. There's black cohosh and other supplements that are sold. They work for some women, but probably not as reliably as what I just described.
Yeah, and you wrote about this so magnificently in your latest book, Your Body in Balance. Had the opportunity to speak with women who have gone through this, like Anne out west, the former police officer who was having hot flashes until she added soy to her diet, saw just dramatic improvement. So cannot recommend that book enough if you're still looking for a holiday present for your loved ones.
Chuck, thank you for mentioning that. I've got to tell you something. About 3 or 4 months ago, a woman called me up because she had read Your Body in Balance, and she had terrible hot flashes, and she decided she was going to put it to work, and she did exactly what we just described, a vegan diet. And although in Your Body in Balance I described a wide range of ways of using soy products, she said, look, let's just do the actual soybean itself. And you go on Amazon and you can order some Laura soybeans and put them in your Instant Pot, and you got a whole bunch together, and within 3 days her hot flashes were gone. So I mean, if you've been suffering with this for a long time, give it a try. I really think the benefit is going to vary a lot from one woman to another, and we clearly need more research on this very topic, and we're doing that research now, and I'm hoping others will too, but there's no reason to wait because all of the side effects are good ones.
Follow-up question to what we were talking about with probiotics and gut health a little bit earlier. Beta here is wondering, has microbiota changed because of long-term stress, and would probiotics at all help in this case?
It's a super question. My guess is that it's probably not stress directly affecting it, but stress leads us to the refrigerator, and that will affect it. Because anything that actually goes down your intestinal tract is going to affect your gut microbiome.
Next question. Don't worry, be happy. How about that? Does rinsing olives cut down on the high sodium content?
Yeah, it will. The olive itself is not really so dramatically high in sodium, but the brines that they might be soaked in can be, depending on which one it is. And that's true for vegetables in general. You look at the sodium content on a can of green beans or a can of pinto beans or peas or anything. That salt, for the most part, was added at the factory. And you can rinse it away, or you can get no salt added products, and you'll be impressed by how low sodium the plant foods are.
Going back to soy, Seema wants to know, will soy affect weight loss?
Probably not. I really doubt it. It's not harmful in any way, and it's always better than what it replaces. But I doubt that it's going to accelerate a change in your weight, I'm sorry to say. But all the other parts of a healthy plant-based diet will. So if your diet is rich in grains, like brown rice and so forth, and lots of vegetables, fruits, lots of beans, and you're getting away from the animal products by avoiding the fatty animal products and also minimizing the added vegetable oils too, your weight's going to come down.
Jana here, apparently trying to stay regular. She wants to do your advice here or opinion on prunes versus Metamucil. Which one is better, and how many prunes are too many?
Well, first of all, your gut will tell you. From a health standpoint, you can have prunes all day long, but let your gut be your guide by that. Test it out and see. If you're new to it, start small, work your way up. But Metamucil, hopefully you don't need Metamucil. Metamucil is marketed to people who are not eating prunes, and frankly, you don't have to have prunes. If you are on a plant-based diet, you're getting fiber in every single mouthful that you have, because all fruits have fiber, all vegetables have fiber, all whole grains have fiber, all beans have fiber. Metamucil is, they take seeds and remove the fiber from them and stick them in a bottle and sell them to people who are eating chicken, which doesn't have fiber, or salmon, which doesn't have fiber, or steak, which doesn't have fiber. So hopefully you won't need Metamucil. You're right to have prunes, but if you're on a really healthy vegan diet without a lot of overly refined foods where they take the fiber out, you're going to be fine.
There's some talk about diabetes right now in the chat box, and somebody was saying, well, there's a big difference between type 1 and type 2 diabetes. And we know that there is significant benefit specifically with type 2 diabetes. In many cases, it can be reversed, but what benefits would somebody who has type 1 diabetes see from a plant-based diet?
A healthy plant-based diet is really important both for type 2 and for type 1. The effects differ a little bit. With type 2, your pancreas is making some insulin. Maybe not as much as before, but it's making some insulin. And the big problem with type 2 is once that insulin makes its way through the blood to your muscles or to your liver, the insulin attaches to the muscle cells and the liver cells, but it can't work. It's not working. It's like a key that's in the lock, but the lock is all jammed. And that's because your cells have been filled with fat particles that are causing insulin resistance. So that's type 2. So when you're on a healthy vegan diet and there's no animal fat left and the vegetable oils are really low, that fat starts to dissipate and then the insulin can work again. Okay. With type 1, pancreas is kind of gone into retirement. It's the insulin producing cells are mostly gone. And so in that case, you need to inject insulin, but you still have the same problem in that if your cells are filled with fat, you'll also have insulin resistance. So now you got two problems. So a person with type 2, they go vegan, they've got a chance of not only improving their blood sugar, but reducing their medication needs, and in some cases getting rid of the disease for all intents and purposes. For type 1, if you go on a healthy vegan diet, you will still need to take your insulin, but the amount you need could well be dramatically reduced because you are tackling the other problem, which is the insulin resistance issue. So the amount you need may go way, way down. And if you do this, test yourself carefully. We just published a case report where we had people just dramatically improving with type 1 on a vegan diet. But the other thing, the really important thing, whether it's type 1 or type 2, it's not a high blood sugar that's going to kill you in the vast majority of cases. It's not a low blood sugar that's going to kill you in the vast majority of cases. What's going to happen is a heart attack or the vasculature of the kidneys. The blood vessels are being attacked by the disease process. So you don't want a drop of cholesterol. You don't want a drop of animal fat in your diet. You want to baby those arteries, because that's the killer in diabetes. So healthy plant-based diet, it will get your blood sugar control as good as it's ever going to get, but it also will baby your arteries and let you live, hopefully, a completely normal life. And that's what you want, whether it's type 1, whether it's type 2, or even gestational.
All right, time for a couple of more questions. Maria here has a great follow-up to this. We got the science now, but she says that her mom is pre-diabetic and it's challenging to motivate her to get her to change. What advice can you offer her?
Put orange cones around the kitchen. You go in there, she doesn't go in there, seize control, you've got to feed her. Okay, she may not go for that. Do the best you can to make this change easy. A lot of people are reluctant to change for the simple reason that they haven't really heard of this, or they haven't heard of it from their doctor. They've heard of it from you, but they think you're kind of a zealot, so they're not really sure it's true. So the more you can kind of take over and encourage her to do this, it's a good idea. A couple other tips. You might want to ask her to do it as a short-term experiment. If she goes vegan for even a month, or even just 3 weeks, and if she does it strictly in the way I described, get the animal products out, keep the oils low, she will discover that her blood sugar will improve even in that time frame. Secondly, you can give her a copy of my book on diabetes or your body imbalance. It describes it, and then it's coming from me, not you. Or if she watches videos, go onto YouTube. There's a video that I did a few years ago that's been very widely watched. Just put in Neal Barnard TEDx. You know what I'm talking about, the TEDx talks, diabetes, and it's been watched millions of times. And I think she'll be convinced, at least I hope so. There are so many people who've been reluctant to make this change. Once they do, their lives just transform. So I hope she does that, and when she does, she will have you to thank.
Hear, hear. All right, let's sneak one more in here. This one is from Andrea. She wants to know, should diet help with hypothyroidism? She says that I've been vegan for 3 years, but recently had to go on medication. Is there a chance that I can manage through diet and get off of my medication?
Yes. Yeah, for sure, in two ways. First of all, everybody is different. Everyone has their own effects, so don't fire your endocrinologist. And if you're on medication, don't throw them away. Everything I'm going to describe should be incorporated into your medical regimen and not a replacement for it. But the two areas where foods come in big time with regard to hypothyroidism is the classic one. 1924, the Morton company started selling Morton salt, iodized salt, with the blue canister, and the girl's got the umbrella. Iodized salt did what food products hadn't done up until 1924, which was to provide a really reliable and consistent source of iodine in the diet. And without iodine, you can't make thyroid hormone. So even now, a lot of people are iodine deficient. Probably 3/4 of people are running low on iodine. There's a lot of it in sea vegetables, but people just aren't eating them in Omaha. So if you happen to be low in iodine, iodized salt will help, even about 1/3 of a teaspoon a day, something like that. Or even easier, just go to the health food store and get an iodine supplement, often sold as kelp. 150 micrograms a day is the recommended amount, and that will help. Okay, so that's thing one. Thing two, if you're not already on a vegan diet, people should follow a vegan diet. The risk of hypothyroidism is highest in people who are enthusiastic with dairy and lowest in people who are on a totally vegan diet. So if you're already vegan, your doctor can easily measure your iodine levels. They do it with a urine collection and other tests that will very rapidly help you to see what your thyroid status is. Last thing, if you are on thyroid supplementation now, take it on an empty stomach, because any food you eat, even organic asparagus, locally grown, if you eat it at the same time as you take the pill, foods slow down the absorption, and they're going to goof up your thyroid. So if you're on supplementation, take it on an empty stomach.
All right, we're going to go ahead and close up that mailbag, but if we did not get to your question, I promise you it is stored safely in there, and we will do our best to get you an answer on an upcoming episode, yes, in 2021. Before we go, I do have a favor to ask of you. If you've enjoyed this show and you support the work that the Physicians Committee does about educating people about nutrition and all the work that we also do with animals, I encourage you, please, right now, if you can, head over to pcrm.org and click the donate button that's at the top of the page and give what you can. Because through the end of the year, we will match dollar for dollar the donation. So essentially, your donation will be doubled. So just go to pcrm.org/donate and give what you can to continue our work here at the Physicians Committee, including these wonderful shows, the Exam Room and the Exam Room podcast. Dr. Barnard, it's been such a fun year doing the Exam Room Live. Selfishly, I will say that this has been my favorite project at the Physicians Committee this year. But what are some of the things that you've been grateful for that we've been able to accomplish?
Well, I've been delighted, frankly, that we were able to do this at all. I think back even 12 months ago, we weren't really thinking technically about ways to reach people as we have. And I want to thank you, Chuck, for stepping up and making this happen with your expertise and just the way you handle it is just fantastic. And it's been fun to work with you, but also so much fun to be able to work with thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people who have been watching this. So I'm delighted. I'm delighted with the fact that we're able to do it and to continue it in the new year.
All right, and we will indeed see you in 2021. We're going to have ourselves some watch parties. It's going to be a grand old time. So I hope that you and yours have a happy and healthy holiday season until then. And don't worry, to hold you over until January 4th, we will be putting out a new episode of the Exam Room podcast next Tuesday. So you can still get your fix. Just make sure that you head over to Apple Podcast or Spotify. Look for the Exam Room podcast by the Physicians Committee and hit that subscribe button. And if you would be so kind as well to leave us a 5-star rating, we would greatly appreciate it. And that, my friend, is all the time that we have for today and this year. I want to say thank you one more time to Dr. Neal Barnard for joining us today and for countless episodes throughout this wacky 2020 that we've had. And also to the crew behind the scenes that helps us put the show on every single day. It is quite the production. So much more work goes into this than you could possibly imagine. So thank you all for your help behind the scenes. And to you, my exam roomies, you are who we do this show for. So thank you so very much for tuning in every day and learning with us and sharing the show and getting the message out there. We appreciate this more than you will ever know. And for everyone here at the Physicians Committee, I am the weight loss champion, Chuck Carroll. We'll talk to you again in 2021. But until then, happy holidays and happy new year. Stay safe, take a stand, and keep it plant-based.